So what can the attacker do if they have control over this all-important 0th argument? Well, suddenly they can start inputting any string that they want, and potentially strings that have percent formatters in them. So for example, maybe they input this string, which just so happens to have a %d inside of it. And so what printf will do is printf will say, well, looks like there's a %, so I'm going to have to grab another argument off the stack to match with this %. Now, this printf did not provide any additional arguments, so this % formatter will match up with some other value on the stack, who knows what. And likewise here, if the user input contains a %s, well, that's a problem, because now printf's going to go on the stack, try to match something up with a %s. Again, more problems. The user could even provide something like %x, 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 %x. And what this will do is for every single % formatter, the printf function will go on the stack, look for the next argument that it thinks is on the stack, but it actually isn't an argument. It's some other value on the stack, and print out those values. So all of these are ways in which the user could input malicious data or a malicious input to printf. And because it has these % formatters, it causes printf to have mismatched arguments, and bad things can happen. So one thing I haven't answered so far is, what do these letters actually mean after the %? What's the difference between a %d or a %s? So let's go through those now. So the letter you put after the % tells you the type of variable or value that you want to print out. So when you say %d, I think it stands for decimal, but don't quote me on that. But %d prints out an integer on the stack. So if printf sees %d, what it will do is it will go on the stack, read 4 bytes corresponding to the next argument that hasn't been used yet, and it will print out those 4 bytes as an integer. So if I write something like this, printf will say, OK, it looks like the user wants to match this %d with another integer. Now, we did not pass in another integer, so instead what will happen is this %d will get matched up with something else on the stack, who knows what, and that value will get printed out as an integer, possibly a secret value. What about %s? S stands for string. That one I am pretty sure about, but I guess if I'm wrong, it's now in a video forever. Oops. But %s, I think, stands for string. And remember, in C, strings are stored as the address of the start of a character array. That's just how you store strings in C. So instead of storing the string itself, you write an address. And when you go to that address, it's the first character of the string. That's just, by definition, how you store strings in C. So when printf sees %s, what it will do is it will go on the stack. It will take the next 4 bytes that haven't been matched up yet. Remember, we're matching up every argument with a % formatter. So we'll go on the stack, take the next thing that hasn't been matched up yet. We will read it like an address, because like we just said, strings are addresses. So I'm going to read the next 4 bytes as an address. I'm going to go to that address, and I'm going to print out a string. And remember, string is just a big character array, and we print until we see the null terminator. That's what marks the end of a string. So when I see %s, I go to the stack, take the next argument. I read it like an address, because a string is an address that points to the first character of a character array. Go to that address, read out the character array, print it out until I see the null byte, and I stop. So that's what this %s would do. What about %x? Well, x stands for hexadecimal. I probably should have looked these up beforehand, so I wasn't guessing. But I think %x stands for hexadecimal. What they stand for is not too important. But what %x will do is it will go on the stack, take 4 bytes, and print them out in hexadecimal. So if you provided an input like %x, 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 then what printf will do is for each of these arguments, it will go on the stack and look for an argument to match this % formatter and print that value out in hexadecimal. So what this line is trying to tell you is just that the letter that comes after the % tells you the type of the value that you want to match up with this printf formatter. And depending on the variable type, whether it's a string or an integer, printf will do slightly different things. For example, the %s will dereference an address, but with %d, there's no dereferencing. We just read the integer and print it out.